Today we're talking about a unique alternative metal band that has recently proven that though they disagree on what direction to take the band, they can still be friends, play together, and even release new music when they feel their voice can help bring freedom and happiness to the world. Stay tuned to learn about the history and discography of System of a Down.
Young Music Hunt.
This story truly begins with the Armenian genocide between 1915 and 1917. Throughout the years, the country of Turkey has tried to deny their attempt at genocide on the Armenian people, but of course those that survived this horrible time would have told their ancestors otherwise. Serj Tankian was born on the 21st of August 1967 in Beirut, Lebanon, to Armenian parents, and all four of his grandparents had been survivors of the genocide. When he was 7, the family moved to Los Angeles, where he attended an English and Armenian kindergarten to 12th grade school, which all of the founding members of System of a Down would also coincidentally attend, though Serj was about 8 years older than the others. In college, he began to play keyboards and write songs, and also began spreading awareness of the Armenian genocide. His first band was called Forever Young, and though he very much enjoyed playing the heavier music, he was also very inspired by Armenian folk and classical music. Jumping over to Daron Malakian, this Armenian-American singer and guitarist was born July 18, 1975 in Los Angeles. He was exposed to Kiss and other metal bands at the age of 4 and eventually felt called to the drums, but his parents bought him a guitar instead when he was 11 because you could turn that off. In his teenage years, he got into the Beatles and started to write songs and hone his unique style. In 1993, Daron met Serj while the two of them were playing in different bands that shared the same rehearsal studio. The two of them would create a new band called Soil, with Serj Tankian on vocals and keyboards, Daron Malakian on guitar and vocals, David Hakopian on bass, and Domingo Dingo Lararnio on drums. Shavarsh Shavo Odagian was born in Yerevan, the capital city of Armenia, on April 22nd of 1974. He moved to Los Angeles at the age of 5, where he would go to the same school that Daron and Serj attended. He was raised by his grandmother and was into skateboarding and cites bands like Dead Kennedys, Kiss, Slayer, The Beatles, and Black Sabbath as major influences. Shavo was also in a short-lived band that shared that same rehearsal studio. He was invited to manage Serj and Daron's band Soil, and eventually became a full member of the band before they officially broke up in 1994. When Serj, Daron, and Shavo decided to form a new band in 1995, the title of a poem Daron had written, Victims of a Down, was considered as the band name, but Shavo suggested that they change the word victims to system to appeal to a wider audience as well as to sort them closer to one of their major inspirations, Slayer. Antranik Andy Khachaturian had already played drums in a band with Daron before and was invited to join this new group. Between 1995 and 1997, they released 3 demo tapes to their growing audience in Los Angeles, which led to street teams of loyal fans that would do whatever they could to spread awareness of the band. Street team members would often spread concert flyers and purchase or bootleg copies of the tapes for their friends and family. This growing popularity, in combination with their already very loyal Armenian fan base, ensured that the band was always able to pack the biggest clubs in Hollywood. Among other label heads, legendary producer Rick Rubin became interested in the band and was planning to come see them perform at the Viper Room in Hollywood. Unfortunately, before the show, Andy Khachaturian damaged his hand and was told he wasn't going to be able to play the drums again for at least a year. Once again looking to their friends at the rehearsal studio, John Dolmayan was asked to fill in for at least the one big gig. John is of Armenian heritage and was born on July 15, 1973 in Beirut, Lebanon during their civil war. His father was a saxophone player, and as early as 2 years old, John was interested in the drums and would mimic the drummer of his father's band. His family was offered asylum in Toronto, Canada, where they stayed for a few years before moving to California when John was 7 or 8. His parents bought him a drum kit when he was 15, and he would practice to his dad's jazz albums, and the rock albums rotated between his friends. He also cites some of rock's best drummers as his biggest influences, especially The Who's manic Keith Moon. Shavo says that John learned about 8 songs in one session, and quickly just fell into the role as the band's official drummer. Their previous drummer Andy and the Soil bassist David Hakopian would go on to play together in the Apex Theory. After the Viper Room show, they created a fourth demo specifically to send to record labels, and there was a bit of a bidding war. But of course, in the end, Rick Rubin won, and they signed to his American Records because they couldn't deny the opportunity to work with him as their producer. The debut album System of a Down was released June 30th of 1998. The album cover is taken from an old anti-Nazi poster from 1928 Germany, with text referring to five fingers grabbing the enemy, being the Nazis. This is referenced on the back of the cover, with a new take on the quote inside of Darren's poem, Victims of a Down, that had inspired the band's name. The poem is also a good introduction to the band, as it is a declaration of their intent to spread awareness of abuse and promote personal peace. Musically, the album introduces us to System of a Down's chaotic breed of short and fast-paced songs that seem to ignore heavy metal's typical traditions. This first album includes some growly vocals by Serj Tankian, though he still is able to use a lot of his interesting voice and crazy voices. The fast-paced, chunky, and simplistic drop C riffs and John's fast and groovy drumming created an atmosphere that makes anybody want to bounce up and down or dance. Lots of quick dynamic changes keep these short songs engaging, with switches between full intensity metal sections and parts that keep the pacing but try different ways of lightening or otherwise changing the mood through things like more melodic guitar and bass parts, guitar patterns in a higher register, or different drum beats. The band also uses a lot of inspiration from their homeland as well as other Middle Eastern musics, which is often heard in the rhythm and melody. Though the lyrics often deal with very heavy themes, throughout their career, the lyrics and vocals have also often been very silly and fun and just kind of crazy and out there. An early version of the song about the Armenian genocide, PLUCK, was previously released on an Armenian compilation album. Their first singles, Sugar and Spiders, were both very successful on radio, as well as the music videos doing well on MTV. They went on tours with Slayer and Metallica, and even joined Ozfest and contributed to a rap rock song on a South Park album. The day before releasing their next album, the group wanted to put on a thank you for their fans by holding a free concert, but when over 4 times the amount of people showed up, the concert had to be cancelled, and the fans weren't told immediately, and when they found out, a 6-hour riot ensued. Toxicity was released September 4th of 2001 and debuted at number 1 in the US and Canada. They continue to be manic and heavy, with lots of changes, but I feel the softer sections of music are more fleshed out, and the whole thing seems like their style is perfected on this album. While Serj had written the great majority of lyrics for the first album, Darren Malakian, who is credited for writing the majority of the music, contributed lyrics to half of the songs on this album. The singles Chop Suey, Toxicity, and Aerials all did very well, and the music video for Chop Suey has over 1 billion views on YouTube. The music videos for Aerials and Toxicity were co-written by Shavo Adagian, who would continue to direct videos throughout their career. Other memorable tracks include Prison Song, Jet Pilot, Bounce, and Psycho, and the hidden bonus track Arto was named after the guest star and is an adaptation of an Armenian church hymn. Here's a taste of my friends and I doing some of Toxicity. Thank you to my collaborators Ramiro Escamilla and Caleb Johnson. I'd appreciate it if you could check out their channels where we have the full music video for our covers of Aerials and Toxicity. Check out the Aerials cover on Ramiro Escamilla's drum cover channel. And Toxicity can be found on the channel for Caleb Johnson's band, The Eldritch Truth. During the sessions for Toxicity, the band had come up with over 30 songs and then narrowed them down to the songs that they felt flowed best to make up Toxicity. But in early 2002, rough versions of the other songs appeared on the internet. The band's answer to this was to go back into the studio, refine the songs, and release them as an official album, properly called Steal This Album. which was released on November 26, 2002, and has packaging that looks like a burned CD. It's a very fun album all the way through, and is obviously in a very similar style to Toxicity. Some of the standout tracks are Inner Vision, Boom, and F the System. The year 2005 would see the release of 2 albums by System of a Down that would both hit number 1 around the world. Mesmerize was released May 17, 2005, and was followed up 6 months later by Hypnotize on November 22nd. Both albums feature artwork by Darren's father, Vartan Malakian, and show that the albums are together in a series. Either disc alone is a great experience, but truly it is a double album that feels like a concept album when both are paired together. The first album, Mesmerize, begins with a 1-minute intro track titled Soldier Side Intro before going into BYOB, but the finale of the other album, Hypnotize, is a song called Soldier Side, and on that song the outro brings us back to Soldier Side Intro, and repeats the lyrics that begin Mesmerize, making the whole thing feel like it kind of loops back over again. A lot of the songs flow right into each other, but really there aren't many pauses between any of the tracks, and everything moves together as one epic piece of artwork. When I was 16, I remember my best friend Colton telling me that I needed to hear this song that was coming on the radio, and I didn't really take him too seriously at the time. But then later I think I was riding with my mom, and a System of a Down song came on the radio, and it was my first time hearing the band, and my mom turns it up. Not being a heavy metal person, she's like, "Oh, this song is awesome." And sure enough, we were listening to BYOB, and it blew my mind the first time I heard it. It was such a progressive song to be on the radio, and I always bring it up still today in conversations about Bohemian Rhapsody, as just like, wow, these guys got an epic progressive song on the radio. The song title stands for Bring Your Own Bombs, and criticizes the integrity of military recruiting in America with the memorable, if you can make them out, lyrics, "Why don't presidents fight the war? Why do they always send the poor?" Though these albums are still very aggressive and in your face at times, I feel there is a lot more variety and diversity of different feelings, and softer sections that last a lot longer than they would have on previous albums. Another single from Mesmerize, Radio Video, and the successful title track from Hypnotize both showed clear Middle Eastern influence, and Lonely Day is a much softer song with Darren on lead vocals and the rare appearance of a guitar solo in a System of a Down song. Serj Tankian had different ideas on where to take the band and wasn't as involved on these albums. Therefore, Darren Malakian is the main songwriting force and shares vocal duties almost equally with Serj. Serj sings lead vocals a little more than Darren, and they often sing together or provide backing vocals for the other. In May of 2006, the band declared that though they were not breaking up, they could use some time apart from each other to try out new ideas and express themselves with new projects. So Shavo Adagian experimented in hip-hop with RZA, Serj Tankian released solo albums, and John Dolmayan joined Darren Malakian's new band Scars on Broadway. Like this video and subscribe so that I know that you are interested in seeing documentaries on these projects as well. Thank you very much. In the year 2011, the band started doing tours in different parts of the world, and on April 23rd of 2015, they played in Armenia for the first time, with a free concert in Yerevan to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the Armenian Genocide. Throughout the next few years, the band members were often asked about whether or not a new album was coming out, and it seems that there is just too much disagreement, along with the idea that they want to make the best album yet. However, in response to the 2020 Nagorno-Karabakh War, the band came together to record and release 2 new songs, Protect the Land and Genocidal Humanoids, with proceeds from the songs helping fund the needs of families that lost their homes. These singles were a one-off kind of thing, and we shouldn't expect anything more from this band anytime soon, but here's to hoping. If you're new to System of a Down, I always leave links in the description for where you might want to get started listening, and I'd really appreciate it if you could jump over to my friends' channels to watch our music videos for Aerials and Toxicity. And if you could leave a comment down below telling me what band you want to see next, I'd really appreciate that. Please give this video a like and subscribe for more. Have a happy listening session.